The worst jobs in history. That is what we are going to be talking about today, okay? And understand this, I am aware because I worked in customer service as well. Yeah, no, bro, not every job's great. I'm just going to say that right now. In fact, most jobs, they kind of suck. I'm blessed to do what I do and basically just yap for a living, and I'm incredibly thankful for that. However, because I'm very aware that most of the time that y'all are watching my videos, you're either watching me on your lunch break or you're watching me on your phone or tablet while you're eating some ramen noodles at the end of the day. That is where I've realized where I fit into a lot of your guys' schedules. And I feel like as a great palate cleanser halfway through the week of giving you guys a historical video, I want to go over some of the worst jobs I think I've ever heard of. Like legitimately, bro. I'm talking everything from medieval executioners, Gong Farmers, the cleanup crew of Chernobyl, to dwarves in the Middle Ages. Oh my goodness, bro, this video, I'm actually really hyped for this one, bro, because I've been really getting into Chernobyl from HBO Max, and I'm going to be honest with you, dog, I feel way better about my life choices. Way better. Oh my goodness, I could have been born back then. Brother, no, absolutely not, okay? And I'm feeling pretty good today, okay? And you know what? I want to do a good historical video. If you enjoy this video at all, please consider like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to stay notified. We are trying to hit 300,000 subscribers before the end of the year. 500,000 before the release of GTA 6 is the goal. We have different types of content coming in. We're bringing back the weekend videos. We're trying to hit, we have 5 uploads a week right now. We might be upping that up to around a 6 upload a week. We can be going, we're going pretty hard, bro. We're going pretty good. And I'm only doing that because I am motivated to make content for you. And with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. Let's go. A peasant during the Dark Ages. Bro, let me tell you, it's always so weird to me that people try to describe the existence of the peasants as anything other than a life of toiling around for the pleasure of those above you. Oh my goodness, well, they only work 20 hours a week. Brother, that is one of the most flawed metrics I've ever seen, because what do you mean they only worked for 20 hours a week? Their entire life was devoted to work. You were either farming, hanging out on the farm, and for 5 minutes, you might see a woman, and then to get with said woman, you have to unbuckle 17 different buckles. Brother, do you have any idea how down bad people had to be? You're over here trying to get with some chick that hasn't bathed in 3 months, and you gotta undo 3 different belts, 47 different buttons. All for you to probably get beaten because you find out that she was secretly with, like, the baron of your land. Brother, life sucked back then. Oh my gosh, it's one of the most romanticized times ever. However, it was simple. And when I mean by simple, I mean you woke up crack of dawn, toiled your fields, farmed crops. Every once in a while, you know, got to hang out with some of your homies because they were also working on the field. And then, when your neighboring lords and your lord wanted to settle a beef, you got conscripted basically to be an NPC. So some Duke of Baravia can use you to farm XP so he could get some clout. Brother, that is your life, man. I'm sorry, you're not only a farmer, you're literally like, hey, yo, bro, we're gonna need you on the front lines. Okay, dope, do I, like, get weapons? What do you mean you have one in your hand? This is a broken shovel. What am I supposed to do with this? I don't care what you do with it. Why am I being conscripted? Because we need bodies. Why am I doing this? Well, I mean, like, you could just get executed. All right, boss, I'm ready to go. Bro, yeah, I'm sorry. The Dark Ages, they're dark for a reason. It's so weird when people, like, try to romanticize that time period. They try to be like, oh my goodness, chivalry is dead. Brother, I'm sorry. Chivalry is literally one of the most overrated things to ever exist. Because essentially what chivalry was, is because the knights were so on, like, straight up Diddy mode that they wouldn't stop kithing people back in the day, that they actually needed to set up a code of laws that they had to follow to get with a woman. That is how bad it was back in the day. I'm sorry, bro. Being a peasant is one step below that. You might be getting kithed or having a loved one kithed. And on top of that, brother, I'm sorry, being a farmer and a conscripted soldier at any point, literally being an NPC in your own life is, I'm gonna be real. That one's very bad. That one is very bad. I'm sorry, like, that would slowly break you down day by day. Medieval executioners. Dog, I did not know how you got this job. Like, on a real note, it's something you don't think about until you're forced to, like, talk about a video like this. Brother, how did you think you got the job of executioner or, like, torturer? Your dad had to have it. Brother, I'm sorry, the executioner's job is literally the first thing other than, like, being a king of, like, an actual Nepo baby in history. You literally are born into that role. And you're hated because you're like, bro, yeah, bro, he executed 17 people last week. Brother, it's my job. What do you mean? You're selling their stuff. You went into their house, grabbed their stuff after I got rid of them, and now you're selling it. But I'm the bad guy? I'm doing my job. What do you think happens if I don't do it? Like, they also covered their face a lot. It was either because it was a practice at the time, or they didn't want their identities to be known because they were kind of seen as like a super taboo thing. Because people were more religious back then. And you're dealing with, like, a really weird paradox where you're like, yeah, bro, you executed somebody in capital punishment, but, like, they also may or may not have been guilty. So, like, is he really holy, though? So they more or less were, like, born into a job that they either loved or hated, most of the time hated, and they were excommunicated from birth because they thought of them as some, like, cursed child. Brother, imagine inheriting a job of being the local executioner. And, like, bro, like, some people want to be edgy, being like, oh, well, that would be a pretty cool job. I am justice. Bro, no, like, imagine how boring that job is in reality. You're literally dumb to, like, not dumb. You're, like, you've grown numb to human life to a degree that, like, you're sunned by everybody else, and this is your way of coping. Like, I'm sorry, dog, like, bro, if I'm back then, I want to make friends with the local executioner. I want that guy to be my homie. I'm sure he has stories. But, like, it's a bad job. It could be worse. I would rather be the executioner than the peasant, because I think the peasants low-key have, like, a worse existence, at least in this case. Like, yeah, I'm excommunicated, but, like, I'm kind of in a weird, like, protected class, bro. Like, I'm kind of in, like, yeah, but, like, who's gonna take this job? Bro, let him do his thing. I'm sorry, yeah, bad. Like executioners weren't getting caught for, like, unaliving because they probably took out all their aggression on the people that they were executing. I'm gonna put it in bad. It's kind of like the purge every day of the week. A plague doctor. Dude, imagine living in a time where, like, they thought germs were like, bro, get that hippie shit away from me. Bro, what are you talking about? You want to be sanitized. No, bro. I'm gonna put on this mask. Okay, so the mask is, like, meant to filter out, like, germs, right? No, bro. It's like with a big beak, and I put flowers in it because bad smells equals toxic, good smells equals good. And I'm over here like, it's weird how far we got with literal backwards logic. Like, you ever think about that? Like, I can understand how they got to that point. They were like, yeah, if it smells bad, it's bad. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. And if it smells good, it's good. And I'm like, technically, sir, and it's like, yeah, but, like, don't you think there's, like, an extra thing to that? Like, maybe there's germs, bacteria. You're a witch. Burn him now. You see, bro, I'm immediately getting, like, burnt at the stake if I'm going back in the day. Okay, let's look at this job. What type of doctor duty are you really doing, bro? You're doing some bloodletting, probably murking more people than the local executioner. Like, bro, I'm sorry. Illness has to be one of the most depressing things that, like, you could ever witness, because it's like, it's not just like an execution, it is literally a prolonged, like, suffering. And again, dog, I'm sorry, we're talking about, like, Leets therapy. That was the type of stuff that we were doing. Like, is it the worst job? No, but it would bum you out, because the fact is, bro, is you are literally a thought and a prayer away from getting the very same illness that you are treating people for, and your treatments, absolute best case scenario, are like, I'm gonna feed them moldy bread, because maybe they're gonna get some type of, like antibiotic element from it, but, like, more often than not, they're just gonna get murked anyways, and you're gonna be like, yeah, bro, I tried my best. Bro, I'm sorry, we weren't working with mutts. I'm putting this in bad. I think that's I think that's a fair placement. The Radium Girls, dude. This is another one. I bring this up a lot. When you look at history, it's actually hilarious how much of it was, like, a trial and error. What do you mean we had to go through a point where, like, you had the Matchsticks Girls and you had the Radium Girls? And what they were doing is they were working with radioactive materials over the course of a very long time. And these radioactive materials were slowly but surely infecting them with radiation that was literally deteriorating their DNA. And what was the super important thing they were doing for? They were using radioactive radium, to paint Watts dials to make them glow in the dark. And you think to yourself, okay, well, I mean, like, what happened? They were told by their higher-ups, working with this radioactive material, to use their mouth to wet the tip of their paintbrush over and over and over again. So, What do you think happened? You can actually look this up. I'm not going to show you because it's really bad. Look up the faces of Radium Girls. They would literally have like the entire lower part of their face literally start like rotting off because it was slowly but surely taking them apart. When you're looking at like the Matchsticks Girls, that was another one where they were working with white phosphorus, and that also was like slowly but surely deteriorating them. And then it's even crazier to think that it was for such a mundane thing. Like, there was a lot of people that got hurt during, like, the World War I and World War II war effort at home and, like, the manufacturing things. And there's a lot of, like, really bad things that happen there. But, like, that gets overlooked because it was for the common good. This was a time where they were like, bro, I really want my watch to glow in the dark. How am I going to do this? I'm going to put radium on top of it. And it took so long for that to finally come out. And even when it did, essentially what happened was, hey, yo, we didn't know. That's not our fault. Anyways, bye, weirdo. Because... Yeah, dude, that's essentially what they were able to get away. It's kind of crazy. Like, looking at it through that point of view, it's like, I wonder what our thing's going to be. I wonder what our thing is going to be. We're going to look back on being like, why were we okay with that? That's kind of insane. Brother, I'm sorry. The idea of having your face rot off over the course of decades and you get literally nothing from it, that is awful. It's not the actual worst, but it is definitely up there. A Sin Eater. Dude, when I tell you that this is one of the most metal titles for ultimately a really weird job ever, I'm going to tell you something right now. Oh, what do you think a Sin Eater is? Guess. Okay, no. When a bad person, is no longer with us and they are left in like their, in their state, it would be a practice from their loved ones. If they wanted them to get into heaven, they would put food and more often bread by the remaining portion, their body, and they thought that the sins of the body would leach into the bread, and that if somebody came in and ate the bread, a holy person ate the bread, they would actually be consuming the sins of the fallen. And that's another thing, bro. Sin Eater is a metal name. That's such a cool title. But ultimately, you're eating food that had to touch somebody that was... What? Like... I understand, like you can't roast people from back in the day too hard because ultimately they were working with that. But, like, where does it say in the Bible that, oh yeah, bro, sins, like, stick to the body and they, like, that it leaches on the food and definitely bread. Bread, it's like a sponge to it. We bended the laws of religion really far with that one. Really far with that. Brother, I'm sorry, the job of being a Sin Eater, I mean, in reality, you're kind of just eating food that touched somebody that was no longer with us. I mean, it could be worse. Like, yeah, you could get sick. But, like, even of everything, and also you're viewed as, like, a pretty, like, noble person because they wanted to choose people that were fairly holy to do this. It could be worse. Like, of all the jobs there is, this isn't that bad. A Gong Farmer. Brother, London might have been one of the dirtiest places in the history of fucking ever. What do you mean that you guys had such a problem with waste throughout the city that you had to recruit a group of people called the Gong Farmers? And the Gong Farmers would sift through the human matter and they would either get valuable stuff out of it. Like, you think dumpster diving is bad? This is literally dumpster diving, not dump diving. They're diving in the dumpings. That's essentially what's happened here, and they are looking for anything that could be remotely considered valuable throughout the waste. Number one, bro, this is an absolute, no, like, automatically no. But on top of that, this was also used as a way of fertilizer for, like, crops, so they would be paid by the tonnage, by how much they were able to get done. So if they were able to remove, like, 5 tons, you would be paid by the ton. A lot of these people were also viewed as, like, a social outcast, which is, like, brother, imagine, like, looking at, like, somebody who was, like, working for a garbage company. And that's another thing, dog. People that work for a garbage company, dog, like, they're one of the most underrated people in day-to-day society because at the moment they stop coming around, things get dirty real quick. So the local garbage man, yo, give him some respect, bro. I mean, he's doing an actual civil service. This is on a different level, bro. Imagine your whole job is to clean up the fecal matter of your entire city, and people actively are like, bro, get away from me. You stank so bad. And we're not even talking about infections. A lot of these people ended up being sick with, like, brother, I'm sorry. This is, like, awful. This is awful. Will I be I wouldn't want to be a radium one just because of the radiation sickness, but Gong Farmer, that's awful. There's actually no way, bro. A Chernobyl cleanup crew. Dog, I've been the entire inspiration behind this show is I'm watching the HBO series on Chernobyl, and I was at like a disbelief multiple times in. I was like, there's no way that this is what like it was like. No, it's way worse. It was way worse, brother. The entirety of Chernobyl essentially boils down to is that the Soviet Union, you know, the communist state that is better than us in literally every single way, apparently, cut corners so badly that they didn't have a cool down system in play for one of the few nuclear reactors that they had. And Chernobyl goes in the meltdown. And at this point, I want you to think about this. And I didn't think about this until I was watching the show and I was like, oh wow, that's actually a good point. This would be the first time that we've ever had a uranium incident in the history of the world. There is almost never this much uranium on the surface of the planet being actively heated over and over again, to the point that at the time that the Chernobyl meltdown happened, this was the first time that it ever happened. People want to bring up, well, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Chernobyl radiation output but there was more radiation that was being output by Chernobyl than the entirety of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki together in 1 hour. And this was going on for weeks. You can't put out any type of uranium fire with water. You can't do that at all. It actually irradiates the water horrifically bad. No, the only way that you're going to be putting it out is with sand or iodine. And then at that point, you have to bury it in concrete, essentially being like, we could never touch this. Because the nuclear half-life of that core was around 23,000 years. And they were in such a rush to fix this, they had to invent different types of technology to get into it. But oh my goodness, the death count was absolutely insane. If you were one of the first people to start cleaning up Chernobyl, and a lot of the people that were cleaning up Chernobyl were told it was something different than it was, because if they told them what was going to happen, is that every single one of them was going to get a dose of radiation so lethal that within the next 48 days, they would suffer one of the worst demises you could ever suffer from, and that is radiation poisoning. Radiation poisoning is unironically one of the most painful ways that you could ever go out. Your body literally gets ripped apart at the DNA level, and your body stops reproducing its own self, and it just slowly withers away and attacks itself. Every part of your body essentially starts self-imploding until you finally go. Oh, and don't you get me started, bro. Pain suppressants don't even work on it because your body stops circulating the pain suppressant because it doesn't know how to. Your body essentially forgets how to be a body and starts self-destructing. That's essentially what radiation poisoning is. And that is what happened to a very large portion of the people that were working on this. Bro, like literally everybody that was getting a dose. And let's say you don't get a lethal dose, your life expectancy per day that you were in Chernobyl, it was something crazy. Like per day that you were in Chernobyl, your life expectancy like went out by like a few months, and people that were there like near the radiation zones, brother, yeah, your life was going down by like 20 years and you were guaranteed to get some type of cancer. The actual worst. That is one of the worst jobs I think I've ever heard. Being a whaler, dude. I'm sorry, a lot of y'all think this would be a metal job. I would actually implore you, watch The Deadliest Catch, but also imagine that you're on a wooden boat, and instead of getting crabs, which are easy pickings, you're going to be hunting a whale. Hell no! I'm sorry, dude. I have a fear of very deep water. That is one of my phobias. I'll keep that 100% honest with you. The idea that I am going to be out on the high seas hunting a whale called Moby. And I'm doing this for the oil inside of their head. Mind you. To light some lamps? That's all I'm doing this for? So I'm going to doing this. Okay? And I am trying to hunt a whale with essentially a spear and a bunch of my homies. Yeah, bro, we're probably cool with each other, but oh my gosh, does that sound like an actual hellscape. Brother, you can call me a bitch. Call me that. I don't care. The idea of that is the way that I make my money, being a whaler. It's not even like I don't want to hurt the animal type of thing. No. It goes beyond that. It's the fact that I'm going to be on the high seas on a wooden boat trying to take out a whale that weighs more than the damn boat. I'm sorry, dude. Put whaler. It's very bad. It's not as bad as a gong. I would rather be a whaler than a gong farmer. I'm just gonna keep it real with you. A coal miner. This is another one, bro. It just sounds depressing. What do you mean that, like, you're going into, like, these caverns that the best way to describe them is literal hell on earth to grab some coal. And you're getting black lung. There is literally no other way to say it. You are going to get some black lung. And you are mining in complete and total darkness, okay? Hell, by candlelight with your homie that is coughing so badly that he probably already lost a full lung. And on top of all of that, you have to worry about collapses. You have to worry about like legitimate cave diving incidents. You have to worry about explosions inside of the thing. You have to worry about toxic gas. You ever heard the saying canary in a coal mine? Do you know why they did that? Because canaries, if you bring them into a coal mine and there's any type of toxic gas, it'll get rid of the canary before it gets rid of you. So if the canaries stop chirping, that's how you know you have to go. That sounds like hell on earth. I'm sorry, bro. That's going in an awful. That I would rather be a whaler than working in a coal mine. I'll be 100% honest with you. A gladiator during the Roman times. Now this is where I'm conflicted on, because there is a big misconception with gladiators. People seem to think that like every single gladiator was like a prisoner of war, a slave, which not every single one. There were certain points where that was more prevalent, but it's actually pretty well documented that there was like gladiators that were essentially how we would treat like professional fighters today. Like there were a lot of the matchups that you hear of in like the gladiator aids, this is going to sound really lame. They were specifically told not to end the fellow gladiator, and it was treated more as like a WWE match. I'm not even kidding you. Now, they were allowed to end some people, and that is where like the slaves were brought in. It is literally the Roman equivalent of being fed like 10 cans so we can boost up your pay-per-view sales. But like gladiators were fed the best food to keep themselves big. They were given some of the best weapons in order to, again, make themselves look cool. If you were a popular gladiator, you were actually treated very well. There were posters of you. There was borderline merchandise of you. You were like equivalent of like an athlete. It's weird. Like there's such a grand spectrum of being a gladiator. On the worst case scenario, you were brought in there and you were just getting got in for the love of it. Best case scenario, you were literally a celebrity that could get your freedom and then become a keeper of glad. Basically, imagine this. Being a good gladiator is like being Conor McGregor all the way up, and then when you decide to retire, you become your own version of Dana White. That is the absolute best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you get fed to a lion. And I'm going to be real here. Out of everything here, it could be worse. It could be way worse. Being an exorcist back in the day. I'm sorry, bro. This is the reason why I'm doing this. Brother, being an exorcist in the back in the day has to be like the equivalent of like calling the ambulance, but like instead of like the ambulance person actually trying to help you, like maybe every once in a while the priest is walking in there and there's like a dude sticking to the ceiling saying something like "Dokate sulla menake dokal." But more often than not, it's probably some epileptic sifting around on the bed and then, you know, actually is probably about to leave this plane of reality because they're probably drowning on their own, you know what I'm talking about. Put him on his side and then, you know, the rest leaves his body, he can breathe again. That's essentially what'll probably happen. But no, instead, Jebediah, the local priest trying to perform an exorcism, trying to be the main character, starts putting holy water on the person that's literally having a seizure, saying something like, "Lord, rebuke thee." And he's over here. He's dead, by the way. Okay, he's no longer with us. And then the priest is like, he lost his battle with the demon. And I'm over here like, no, he's suffocated. What? What are we talking about? I would get burned at the stake so quick. So very quick. If I'm in that room, I'm like, no, like, turn him on. Don't touch him! Well, I mean, like, I kind of have to touch him. Like, I have to move him over to be. If you touch him, you will not be saved. We'll have to perform an exorcism on you. And I'm like, what? I'm sorry, bro. Like, It could be worse. It could be worse, but I was just thinking about that scenario. Like, the fact is that was a large part of it. They think a large portion of, like, the exorcisms that were done back in the day where people were, like, pulsating were people that were epileptics that weren't diagnosed. That's how crazy that was. I'm sorry, I'm going to put that in could be worse. The court jester. This is a grab bag. Because best case scenario, you're like homies with the king and you're going to make jokes about him. And it's more or less going to be like a daily podcast episode with the jest and the king. And you guys are more or less kind of riffing on each other like boys. And there's like actual legal protection around that was another thing. So many kings were icing their jesters. There had to be a law put in place saying that you couldn't ice the jester. Okay. Let's just keep it real here. They weren't listening to all that. There's also a part of it is a lot of jesters were like the cousins of the king that they thought was really funny, and that was their whole job, and it was kind of meant to be like a humiliation thing as well. But like on top of that, I remember hearing this story, and it was like a jester was making fun of the king, and he thought it was funny, and then the jester made fun of his wife, and then the king was like, okay, choose your method of execution, and he said old age. And then the king laughed and was like, okay, you're funny. But in reality, he was going to execute him. Like, that's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you tell a bad joke and you get executed brutally. I'm going to put that in bottom of bad, but like, it's borderline. It could be worse. Being a dwarf during the Dark Ages. Oh my gosh, bro, okay? Have you ever heard of the term, the court dwarf? I thought that was a fake thing. No. You ever wonder what they did with people with dwarfism back in the day? You see, what they would do is it was considered high entertainment to have a dwarf hide in a cake for a royal's birthday, and they would give them to royals as a literal Pokemon. They would give a dwarf that somewhat looked like a royal family member, and then the royal family would take this person with dwarfism, by the way, and dress them up as a literal Austin Powers, Dr. Evil, mini-me. That is what they were doing. Like, we gloss over how it's funny, but it's messed up. I mean, I was looking through, like, photos of this because that's actually, like, weirdly well documented. And they had a picture of what looked like Peter Dinklage next to a big old hunting dog. And they had a saddle on the hunting dog. And when I tell you it took every part of me not to laugh at that. Because this is the problem. I understand it's messed up. It is funny. It is kind of funny. It is, bro. Like, and here's the truth. If you're part of the royal family, you were treated pretty well. You were. That's another thing. Like, yeah, no. Was it kind of, like, demeaning? Yeah. But, like, you were seen as basically an IRL Pokemon to the royal family, a mini-me. They dressed you up, they fed you well, and every once in a while you had to sing a song and dance. That doesn't sound as bad. It could be way worse, but oh my goodness, is that a wild way to do a job. And there you go. Those are some of the worst jobs in history. If you enjoyed this video, please consider a like, comment, and subscribe. We are trying to get to 300,000 subscribers before the end of the year. That is the goal. And I want to give you guys like a historical video at least once a week. I understand it's a niche audience, so that's the problem that I run into. We were going to do last stands throughout history, but I figured I wanted to get you guys, ease you into the historical content. So I want to do worst jobs in history, and then after this, we will probably do like a last stands in history. There's quite a few videos that we can do. I'm still trying to figure out what the Friday video is going to be, so if you have a suggestion, put it in the comment section down below. I film these like the day before, edit them throughout the day. Like, we can turn out these videos in under like 12 hours. It's actually kind of crazy, our turnout rate. But if you enjoyed this video, please consider like, comment, and subscribe. Again, hit the bell icon to stay notified. And again, I will see you all in the next video. Adios, guys.